The lawyer's words echoed in my head as I drove down the dusty road toward what was apparently now my property. Your uncle left you everything, the ranch, the lake, all 1,500 acres. 1,500 acres. I couldn't even picture it. I was 28, working a dead-end marketing job in Denver, and suddenly I owned more land than I knew what to do with. Uncle Ray had been a family eccentric, the one who'd moved to rural Montana decades ago and rarely visited. I'd met him maybe 3 times in my life. The last time I was 12. The road curved around a stand of pine trees, and suddenly there it was, Crystal Lake, shimmering like liquid glass in the afternoon sun. My breath caught. It was beautiful, wild and untouched, surrounded by rolling hills and forest. A small cabin sat on the eastern shore, weathered but sturdy. Then I saw the mansion. On the western shore, completely out of place among the natural landscape, stood a sprawling 3-story house that looked like it belonged in a gated community in California. All white columns, massive windows, and manicured lawns that seemed absurd next to the wilderness. I pulled up the cabin and got out, staring across the water at the architectural monstrosity. Who the hell had built that? You must be Daniel. I spun around. A woman in her late 50s stood beside a gleaming black Mercedes SUV, her platinum blonde hair styled into an aggressive bob. She wore white linen pants and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my car payment. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I'm Patricia Holloway, president of the Lakeshore Estates HOA. She extended a perfectly manicured hand. I shook it, confused. HOA? What HOA? Her smile tightened. The Homeowners Association for our community here at the lake. We have very specific standards for property maintenance, architectural guidelines, and community fees. I'm sure your uncle mentioned it. My uncle barely mentioned anything. He wasn't much of a talker. Well, Patricia's tone turned crisp. That explains the condition of this structure. She glanced at the cabin with barely concealed disgust. Our HOA bylaws require all dwellings to maintain a certain aesthetic standard. This cabin is frankly an eyesore. We'll need you to either renovate it to match our community standards or remove it entirely. I stared at her. Remove it? Lady, this is my property. My uncle owned this land for 40 years. Your uncle, she said, her voice dripping with condescension, chose to remain outside our community standards. But now that you've inherited, we're hoping for a fresh start. We have rules here, Daniel. Rules that maintain property values and ensure our slice of paradise remains exclusive. Exclusive? I looked around at the empty wilderness. How many houses are in this HOA? Patricia straightened. Currently, mine is the flagship property, but we have plans for development. Wait! I held up a hand. You're the only house in this HOA? Her eyes flashed. I am the founding member and president. Several lots have been sold, and construction will begin next spring. This community will be the premier luxury destination in the county, which is why your cabin needs to go. It's dragging down the entire aesthetic. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You created an HOA for yourself? I created a vision. Patricia's voice went cold. One that your uncle refused to participate in, and one that you're now obligated to follow. I have the legal documentation. When the county rezoned this area for residential development 5 years ago, an HOA covenant was filed. All properties within the designated boundaries are subject to our rules and fees. Let me see this documentation. She pulled out a folder from her car, looking smug. Inside were official-looking papers with county seals and legal jargon. I skimmed through them, my stomach sinking. It referenced lot numbers, boundaries, and monthly HOA fees of $500. This can't be legal, I muttered. It absolutely is. Your uncle ignored our notices, which is why he accrued quite a significant debt. By my calculation, with late fees and penalties, you now owe the HOA approximately $43,000. My head snapped up. $43,000? 5 years of unpaid fees adds up. But I'm willing to be reasonable. Pay the debt, renovate or remove the cabin, and we can start fresh. Otherwise, I have legal grounds to place a lien on your property. She smiled. I'm sure you understand. I understood. All right. I understood that this woman had built her McMansion and decided she wanted to control everything around her. I also understood that I needed a lawyer. "I'll be in touch," I said. Patricia's smile widened. "I look forward to working with you, Daniel. Welcome to the neighborhood." She drove off, leaving me standing there with a sinking feeling in my gut. The next morning, I met with Sarah Chun, a property lawyer in the nearest town. She reviewed Patricia's documents with a furrowed brow. "This is interesting," Sarah said slowly. "The HOA covenant exists, yes, but there's something off about the boundaries listed here." "What do you mean?" "These lot numbers, they reference specific surveyed parcels. But your uncle's property was never subdivided. It was kept as one continuous 1,500-acre ranch. I need to pull the original deed and survey records." 3 days later, Sarah called me with news that made my heart race. "Daniel, you need to come to my office. Now." I drove into town at record speed. Sarah had maps spread across her entire conference table. Old ones, new ones, surveyed documents from various decades. "Your uncle was smarter than anyone knew," Sarah said, grinning. "Look at this." She pointed to an old survey map from 1972, when Uncle Ray first bought the property. The boundaries were clearly marked. Then she showed me the HOA covenant map Patricia had filed. See the problem? Patricia's HOA boundaries assumed the land was subdivided into lots, but it never was. Your uncle owned it all as one continuous parcel. And look at this. She pulled out another document. Patricia's mansion? It's not on her property. According to the original surveys and the county records, she built on your land. I stared at the maps, my brain struggling to catch up. What? The lot she purchased was here. Sarah pointed to a small parcel on the eastern shore near my cabin. But she built here. Her finger moved to the western shore. She either didn't do a proper survey, or she assumed the land was available. Either way, her house is completely on your property. You own it. A laugh bubbled up from my chest. You're kidding. I never kid about property law. And it gets better. Her HOA? It technically only applies to the actual subdivided lots that were sold, which is about 20 acres total. Your remaining 1,480 acres are untouched by any HOA covenant. You don't owe her a cent. She, however, owes you rent for the last 3 years. She's been occupying your land without permission. This is insane. It's Montana. People get sloppy with surveys when there's so much open space. But the law is the law. Sarah leaned back, looking satisfied. What do you want to do? I thought about Patricia's smug smile, her threats, her attempt to bully me into paying $43,000 I didn't owe. I want her to know, I said. I called Patricia that afternoon. Daniel. Her voice was syrupy sweet. Have you thought about our conversation? I'm happy to set up a payment plan. I had a survey done. I interrupted. Silence. I had a very thorough survey done, Patricia, with a lawyer. Turns out there's been a mistake. What kind of mistake? Her voice had lost its sweetness. The kind where your mansion is on my property, about 600 feet inside my property line. Actually, you built on the wrong lot. I heard her sharp intake of breath. That's impossible. I had the lot surveyed before construction. Did you? Because the county records and 3 independent surveys all say the same thing. You're on my land. Have been for 3 years. This is ridiculous. I'll sue. You can try. But my lawyer is very confident. And Patricia? My property isn't part of your HOA. Never was. It was never subdivided. So not only do I not owe you $43,000, but you actually owe me 3 years of back rent for squatting on my land. We're calculating fair market value now. For a luxury mansion on lakefront property, it's going to be substantial. The silence stretched so long, I thought she'd hung up. You can't do this, she finally whispered. I can, but I'm not unreasonable. Here's my offer. You admit the HOA has no jurisdiction over my property. You drop any and all claims against me, and you have 60 days to move your house or purchase the land you're on. Fair market value. My lawyer will send you the appraisal. If you refuse, I start eviction proceedings. Move my house? Do you have any idea what that costs? I imagine it costs about as much as building on the wrong lot without a proper survey. I could hear her breathing, rapid and angry. This isn't over, she hissed and hung up. But it was. Patricia hired 3 different lawyers and demanded 4 separate surveys. They all confirmed the same thing. Her Lakeshore Estates HOA had no authority over my land, and her mansion was absolutely, definitively on my property. In the end, she bought the 5 acres her house sat on for 3 times what she'd paid for her original lot. The HOA quietly dissolved when she realized no one else wanted to build in her luxury community under her iron-fisted rules. I kept the cabin exactly as it was, weathered, sturdy, and perfect. Uncle Ray had known what he was doing all along, keeping his land whole and free. On quiet evenings, I sit on the porch watching the sunset over Crystal Lake, and sometimes I see Patricia on her patio across the water. She never waves, and every month, like clockwork, I receive her land payment. It's enough to quit my job in Denver and live here full-time, riding and fishing, and enjoy my 1,500 acres of freedom. Uncle Ray would have loved it,